Test. Keep talking. I'm testing, talking. Everybody talk.
Balls and wieners. Balls and wieners.
The Basement Dwellers podcast is brought to you by Dynamite Shirts. Now offering several services such as screen printing, embroidery, vinyl transfer, and even decals. Visit dynamite-shirts.com and get you some sweet custom clothing today.
Press start to continue.
They are those who live in the shadows, who feed upon Doritos and Mountain Dew. They take comfort in their dark habitats as they watch reruns of sci-fi shows long past. They are the Basement Dwellers.
Show me what you got.
So say we all. So say we all. So say we all.
Indeed.
Yes. This is a fertile land and we will thrive. We will rule over all this land and we will call it this land.
Make it so. Together, we can rule the galaxy far from sun.
I want to believe.
We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 of The Basement Dwellers, a bi-weekly podcast dedicated to all activities most enjoyed by those who spend their time in the deepest, darkest, and dankest of basements everywhere. I'm your host, Wes Tanner, and tonight we have a different kind of show for y'all. We're going to be interviewing a kick-ass dude who's done some pretty amazing things in the name of combating bullying. I'm joined as always by my fellow Basement Dwellers, Nick, Ron, and our special guest, Ben. How's it going, guys?
Good.
What have you guys been up to?
I feel like this is early, actually, because usually we wait for you till 8 o'clock.
Yeah, well, you missed the first episode of this season where everything went like exactly how it should have.
Wow.
Yeah, it was weird. It was. Oh yeah, you missed it too. Jesus.
I've missed a lot because I've been working nonstop and it sucks.
Yeah, me too. Work.
Work. Yeah. Yeah, I actually...
We're about to show some bullying right now.
Yeah, can you kick people out of the
yes,
chat?
Speaking of that, yeah. Yeah, I actually took a half day at work today because the sickness that I've been fighting for the past week and a half finally caught up with me. Jesus Christ.
Get out.
I want to bully myself.
So Ben, you are new to our show, and we're going to be asking you some questions here in a little while, but
some really invasive questions.
For the most part. But for starters, what makes you a nerd? What are you into?
I'm going to prod you.
Yeah, so I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons. I think like most nerds started the original one before the video games, and playing riffs and getting into RPGs with my buddies, and then I got obviously into video games in 1999 when EverQuest came out, since it was the original MMORPG. For everybody, all the WoW people out there who are rolling their eyes, eat a dick.
You're an old nerd.
Yeah, and then I progressed from there on, and but I think before that, really, what really made me a nerd was, this segregation that I had from normal society of people, from your athletes in school, and just kind of fell into my place being picked on at a certain echelon, really. And that just kind of led into what I think we call nerddom now.
Yep. Oh yeah, we've talked quite a bit about that kind of stuff. and we'll definitely pick your brain about the bullying and whatnot. I mean, not that we want you to relive all that, but that's kind of what this show's about.
I don't mind it at all. I don't mind it at all. But no, I think
relive your tragedy.
Yeah, right. Like relive it all for everybody. Yeah, give me your tears.
For me,
So no, and then I went on to playing things like EVE Online, which I'm a huge player in EVE Online now.
I could not figure that game out, man. I couldn't figure that game out. I tried. I mean, it was
probably the most difficult MMO I've ever played in my life. But once you start getting it, it's fantastic. It's also one of those things you continue to learn. No matter how long you play it, you never master it.
Yeah, I kept reading articles about it pop up like every few years or so, talking about the player economy and how, I don't know, like everything in that game is like pretty much like player driven as far as like what they choose to do and everything like that, which that's kind of, a lot of MMOs are like that, but I feel like that one kind of just lets you go, like,
well, it's
like whatever good and bad happens.
EVE Online, but I will say, if it's a great game. It's not just a game, but it is really an economic simulator. If you're really into spreadsheets, then you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
At the same time, I will say it's right. It's the darker side of MMOs, man. It's one of those. And almost every MMO out there today, if you can't go in there and drop the F-bomb at all. At the same time, it's mostly populated by 12 to 14-year-olds that are just completely obnoxious.
Okay.
Whereas EVE Online is mostly, I would say, 28 to 45-year-olds with very high intelligence, very high IQs. Most of them with degrees, and it's such a big community that you get into an alliance or a corporation, which is in essence a guild, and you could really expand. I had to write a report from about South Africa and their economy over the last 15 years, and there's a guy from South Africa that I was able to sit there for 2 hours and talk to, and really got a great interview out of him. So you really can expand your kind of your central basis. It's an absolutely fantastic game, but it's also one of those that give you a real sense of loss.
Yeah.
You could spend 3 or 4 years building and designing a ship, but then it's blown up in 5 seconds and it's literally gone.
I would literally throw my computer across
fucking hardcore.
There are people that do that, and we call them rage quitters.
Yep.
That's me.
So I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic spreadsheet simulator. If you're really into super nerd shit, there you go. You're going to love it.
Excellent.
If you live, eat, and breathe economics, business, and mass marketing, then there you go. It's the greatest thing in the world.
You lost me at the being intelligent part.
I'll have to look into it again. I think the first thing that kept me from actually trying it out was I didn't have a computer that could run it. Secondly, everything I looked up about it just overwhelmed me as far as what I probably get it a little bit better now. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah. So I blacked out the other night and ordered pretty much like everything you can order for 5th edition D&D on Amazon all at once.
I was going to say, did you black out on purpose or on accident?
No. I don't. I didn't actually black out. I was fully aware of what I was doing, but Amazon has a sale right now on their on all the D&D core books, like the
I'm about to follow suit.
Yeah, the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide and like all the adventure modules and whatnot for 5th edition. Yeah, I went crazy. So I'm looking forward to getting those tomorrow. But also, yesterday, we had mentioned this on the first show, which nobody here was here, but we are going to be doing a live stream of D&D on our Twitch and YouTube channels mostly using a subscription service called Dungeon in a Box. and we got our first one delivered yesterday, and it's pretty fucking sweet. I mean, it's kind of expensive for what you get, but you get the whole adventure, you get a couple minis, and you get terrain and dungeon tiles, and then just a couple extra goodies that they throw in just to kind of spice it up a bit. But but yeah, we are going to be doing that on the 29th of this month, starting at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll probably go until like 9 or 10 or later, depending on how everyone's feeling. Forever, yes. But you can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/tbdpod. And as it was pointed out to me, you don't have to subscribe, but you just follow us. Follow us on there. Yeah, if you're familiar with Twitch, you know what to do. I am still learning, so you follow us. If you subscribe, then you owe money, apparently, but I don't know. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to talk to Ben about his bullying experiences growing up as a nerd and how he overcame it all to be where he is today. Stay tuned, and we'll be back in a moment.
What's up, everybody? JJ here. I'm a super nostalgic person, and one of the things that has given me so many memories over the years has been my experiences with video games. I mean, sure, I like hearing reviews, watching Let's Plays, and getting news about the latest releases, but what I really love is hearing about how gaming has affected people on a personal level. That's why I decided to start my own YouTube channel, Game Room Revival. I talk not only about games I love, but why I love them so much, and what they've meant to me over the years. I'm a retro game collector, and the games that mean the most to me are the ones that have great memories attached to them. So, if you're like me and have a passion for talking and hearing about how games have affected people personally, I invite you to come check out my YouTube channel, Game Room Revival. Thanks. And now, back to the basement.
Cool.
Whispers. And we're back. So as we mentioned before, we have Ben with us, Ben Ambrose. I got permission to use his last name here. So a little bit about Ben before we get him talking. Ben was a U.S. Marine in the infantry for 17 years. He retired in 2016. In 2015, he became the first U.S. Marine to summit Mount Kilimanjaro. And 2016 became the first U.S. Marine to summit Mount Elbrus, if I'm saying that correct. True? It is.
Oh my God.
2017, he summited Mount, this is the one I had a hard time pronouncing. He summited Mount Aconcagua. Thank you. Which is the tallest mountain in South America. So yeah, that's a pretty fucking impressive resume, and quite the journey. Would you care to tell us about how you? Yeah. Would you care to tell us about how you got from nerdy whelpling to badass mountain climbing, anti-bullying, global adventuring Marine guy?
Yes. So originally, I remember the first time I was ever actually bullied was in 4th grade, and who it was with, I'm not going to say his name today, but yeah, and
we've thrown shade on this podcast before. Anyway,
it was one of those. I didn't really know where I fit in, and or what was actually happening, and so as I progressed through school, I was just one of those guys who was picked on. I didn't know better. I mean, obviously, bullying never feels right, but it doesn't feel good to be alienated, and I think we can all agree with that. Mm-hmm. So what happened? What happened was, I wanted to join the military, and I thought that joining the Marine Corps was kind of the best way to go because they were the baddest of the bad. And
all right, just I'll pause you there for a second. I'll just say that Ron is a tanker was a tanker in the Army, so he's got words probably. But anyway, continue.
Right, I mean, their basic training is all of like 9 whole weeks. So, and I think they just shortened
it was 11.
Was it? Okay. Well, that's still almost as long as ours.
I'd like to see a show just based on this conversation.
Yeah.
At least we can all agree you're not in the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank God. I was too short to join the Coast Guard at 6 feet tall. I was too short. They told me I had to be at least 6'5", so that when the boat sank, I could walk ashore.
Fuck those guys.
So I joined the Marine Corps, and I went infantry and became what's called an assaultman, where I was a field expedient demolitions specialist. So I came up with explosives that would go onto walls, doors, to blow in doors, so that the grunts could go through and room clear, do whatever they needed to do. I went on 7 combat deployments, 2 Marine Expeditionary units, and 1 humanitarian mission to Haiti. And then I was assigned to a special operations unit in southern Maryland, which is the Chemical Biological Incident Response Force. And I was a guy who went in and basically saved people in the event of a chemical, biological, or nuclear or high-yielding explosive attack. So going from that, I never really wanted to climb anything, to be honest. I actually met a guy who since became one of my best friends, and he gives speeches about his climbing career. He was the first cancer survivor to summit Everest, and he gave us one of his speeches. Him and I became good friends, and he calls me up one day and says, "Let's go climb Kilimanjaro." And
just randomly out of the blue.
Right. It was literally just randomly out of the blue. And I remember sitting there for a minute and just going, "Sean, you're high. I don't want to climb a tree." And so, he started questioning my manhood, calling me all sorts of names. I think he called my mother a few names. And needless to say, naturally, 6 months later, I showed up in Tanzania to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I actually left 9 days after I had my appendix removed, after it had burst, but I had already spent like $13,000, so I wasn't going to turn around. And I was climbing with a team of about 7 of us, I think it was 6 or 7. And I was the only Marine. I was not the first Marine to attempt it, but I was the first Marine to actually summit it. And that weight alone really kept me going. Because if I failed, then, in my mind, the headlines would read, U.S. Marine fails Kilimanjaro. So I felt like I had quite a bit of weight, not to mention that I had all the people around me who were climbing, and I did not want them to be having this mentality that, look at that, we beat the Marine. So I kept going, and I became the first Marine to summit Kilimanjaro. It was freezing cold at negative 14 degrees, and I stood at the summit and took my pictures. I called my mom from my satellite phone, and then I went down immediately. A year later, I decided, fuck this. A year later, I decided to go to Russia to climb Mount Elbrus. At the same time, that's when Sean, my buddy who was the Everest climber, and I sat down and decided we were going to start a travel adventure firm ourselves. So I went to Russia to start making networking connections, and while I was there, I decided to climb Elbrus. I fell and busted my left leg on Elbrus, and decided the next day after I got out of the hospital to go skydiving, because that's just the kind of insanity that we are.
Well, that's exactly what you do after you bust your leg on a mountain.
I like this guy.
Right. Why not?
Fuck, my leg broke. Let's jump out of a plane.
It's either that or stay in a hospital all day where I was bored watching, Netflix.
Right? Boo.
In Russia, of all places. So
Russian Netflix.
Oh,
right.
God.
So at this point, let's go skydiving. What's the worst that could happen?
You still got one good leg left.
My leg's already broke. It's fine.
Right. Well, so I actually summited Elbrus right before I fell. I summited the day I actually what's called EASing, end of active service. So I summited that day. And about 4 or 5 hours after we summited is when I fell. And a year later, so not only did I hurt myself, but I also hurt myself, and I'm no longer covered by the government.
Oh man.
So then, then a year later, I ended up in Mendoza, Argentina. I climbed Aconcagua, which was a 23-day slog of hell, and then we just got drunk the whole time. So,
okay, how do you pronounce this one? Aconcagua.
Aconcagua.
Acapulco Pee Shire.
There we go.
Very close.
Poo-poo, man.
Yeah. Shit, man. That's
so. The thing is so this is. Yeah, so this is one. So climbing is extremely difficult and extremely hard on your body, and it's not one of those things you can just walk on up and it's just a little tough. It's you have to deal with low altitude that is at 10,000 feet. The altitude level. I'm sorry. Let me back that up. So at 10,000 feet of altitude, the level of air is about 40% less dense than it is at sea level. So it's almost like only taking a breath every other breath at sea level.
Ugh.
So you don't, if that makes any sense. So your
does.
cells are screaming
I'm
for
already having
oxygen.
a hard time breathing.
Right. So your cells are screaming for this oxygen. They're screaming for energy, and they don't have any. And, as you go higher, you can just feel your body beginning to die. As you crest, 19,000 feet, your body begins doing very weird things, and it doesn't work as well. Every foot forward is one of extreme strenuous activity, where you literally have to talk yourself into taking one more step every time you take a step. It's extremely difficult mentally. So climbing mountains is not really about overcoming the mountain it's really about overcoming yourself and your own mentality. And you have to have some form of motivation. So for me, originally when I climbed Kili, I linked on to a group called the Cancer Climbers Association. And having that motivation for climbing for other people who have donated money, who have donated their time, to you accomplishing this feat is a high level of motivation. And for us to stand at the summit of Kilimanjaro and scream this level of hope to anybody who's a cancer survivor out there, that they can do anything, just like Sean, I think that was his 12th time summiting. He's now done 15 summits of Kilimanjaro, and he does 1 or 2 a year. And that's to show the world that, anybody, even a cancer survivor who was given 2 weeks to live, can go out and conquer the world. So I wanted to set my eyes on something that was a little more motivating to my background. And that's when I went through a whole series of different anti-bullying organizations, what their ethoses were, and how they approached the notion of anti-bullying and what their method of attack was. And for me, I settled on Love is Louder. And I don't mean settled on in a bad way, but I mean, that's, once I saw that one and read into it, that's exactly what was calling to me. Love is Louder is a great foundation. Brittany Snow, she was in those Pitch Perfect movies. She started it with her friend Courtney Knowles, who's the president of Love is Louder now. And I sat down with Courtney a few times, and we went over kind of what my expectations were, what his expectations were, and we came up with a great way for Love is Louder to support me and my efforts as I basically climbed to the top of the world. So in 2020, actually March 15th of 2020, I will be leaving for Mount Everest.
Ooh.
And Love is Louder is going to support that climb, and through donations, we're going to be supporting that Love is Louder and supporting everybody who's been bullied in the world. And this is the whole ethos of this climb, is to literally climb to the top of the world and show everybody who's ever sat down and been bullied that even they too can climb to the top of the world. That just because you're bullied doesn't mean you're oppressed for eternity. It just means it sucks right now, but everybody has their own level of Mount Everest inside them that they need to climb.
Damn, man.
Dude, when are we leaving? Dude, you got me pumped up. I want to do this shit now.
Well, Everest is 29,000 feet, so if you're ready to go, man, we can, It also takes 10 days just to get to base camp, but...
Hey, I got a year to train.
There you go, man. So what does Love is Louder do for people who are not climbing mountains? Like, what services do they provide, or what support do they provide to people who are victims of bullying?
So it's a great question. Love is Louder has a number of forums and a number of ways that they reach out to people who are bullied. They are a kind of an umbrella of different organizations out there that support Love is Louder, and they have on their website they have ways for you to get information on how to combat bullying, how to talk to your kids about bullying. They have a call center. They also have different outreaches to other organizations that they support as well that also center on more specific forms of anti-bullying, where Love is Louder is mostly anti-bullying in a generic sense. But there are other organizations that they support that really concentrate on the LGBTQ community or bullying for specific ages. So that's really what appealed to me, because many of these organizations are very specified. And so really the question was, how do I fit into these organizations? There's absolutely nothing wrong with an organization that is out to stop the anti-bullying ethos of the LGBT community. The only problem is I don't fit into that genre. So for me to go out and claim my support for that just didn't feel right to me, because that's not where I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I tried to find something that I fit in with a little better, and kind of that would give me that motivation to continue climbing and also continue raising money for better causes. So that's where I found the Love is Louder, because it was more generic. It was more for everybody as opposed to specific communities, but still supported those specific genres.
Yeah, that we're gonna have to look up some more stuff about them. We just started becoming active with Extra Life, which is a you know what Extra Life is?
I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it at all, to be honest.
It's basically you set up a live stream, and you and your friends get together, or just you, and you play games, and if people donate, then your donations go
I have heard of it.
children's hospitals. Yep. I mean that's
okay. Yeah.
Your tales are pretty intimidating, so that's the cool shit that we've done for humanity. But I mean, you're climbing mountains and shit like that, but we're playing games for kids.
Doing anything is really giving up your time is just as important. That's what the donation is all about. It's giving up your time to support somebody who needs it. Playing with children who are autistic, or being involved in Special Olympics. There are so many ways that anybody can really give up their time and their effort. You don't have to give up your money. For me, I just found something that worked with climbing. It's kind of similar to those runnings for causes or March of Dimes or something.
Yeah.
People go on those walks and kind of raise money for blind people or whatever their charity is that they chose. For me, I wanted something that kind of fit into this puzzle, as a puzzle piece in this, jigsaw puzzle of what I do. And being involved in anti-bullying really kind of screamed a positive note of what it is that an alpine climber is all about, because it's showing the world that, hey, even though you were beat up and bullied all through, your whole life, and I mean, as Ron can attest, in the military, you're bullied every day. Not only that, but you are also the bully every day. And
that is very true.
Right. And I'm not trying to take away from the discipline of the military. I mean, the Army does that well enough. But
not to justify it, but it's almost bullying with a purpose. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. And there is a time and a place for specific things like that, and I agree with that. But I wanted to have something that really screamed that no matter what you go through in life, you keep climbing, you keep going, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and eventually you're gonna make it to the top. You just got to keep stepping forward.
To reel it back a little bit, as far as your own personal stories of being bullied, let's get into that for a minute, because I want to see if we can. Yeah. So what was it like growing up? Like, did you have? Let's put it this way: did you have your nerdy interests, and that led you to being bullied, or did being bullied kind of push you to the fringes of I don't want to say society. That sounds pretty edgelordy, but like push you to be more of like the counterculture or the underground, like as far
definitely the latter rather than the former.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I remember the first instance of being bullied was in 4th grade. And prior to that, I think everybody pretty much likes everybody because you're still trying to figure out what, this world around you. So in 4th grade was really the first time I was bullied. And it started out with simple stuff, name calling, things like that. And eventually, evolved into what we see bullying as today. I remember I tried playing on the basketball team. I was not very athletic, which is kind of an oxymoron since I'm a professional athlete now. But I was never very athletic. So playing basketball in high school or soccer, I remember after basketball practice being locked in the bathroom with 2 guys who would not let me leave, and I missed my ride home. And to this day, I still don't remember how I got home, but they just wouldn't let me leave, and for no reason, no reason at all. I remember many cases where I would just be walking into the classroom, and this one specific individual would just walk by you and bump you and just name call, And after a while, that just kind of beats you down and really starts to take effect on your psyche. For me, I always realized that there's life after high school. There's life after where I am at that moment, and it wouldn't always be that way. Sometimes it is still that way, but growing up in the infantry and the Marine Corps, you learn to get some pretty thick skin.
Yeah, I bet, man. See, we've kind of touched on this subject a little bit, and it was never the focus of our show, but we went through kind of how we all kind of became interested in what we were interested in, and for a lot of us, it was kind of more, we weren't necessarily bullied into it, but more we kept it to ourselves for fear of being bullied because of it, because of probably the generations before us that we knew had been bullied because of it. I mean, you not to guess your age, but you're older than us. I can tell you that. so I'm
37.
30. Okay, well, never mind. You're the same age as Ron. Okay. Well, then in that case, I won't. I won't make assumptions on that part. But for
don't assume our age.
Yeah, there we go. Nick and I are lower 30s, but Nick and I went to, Nick and Ron all went to the same school, but Ron was older, obviously. Yeah. But we,
I didn't. To be honest, I didn't decide that I wanted to be a climber until I was in my mid 30s. I had no idea. I was in the Marine Corps. I was going to university at Georgetown, thinking, what am I going to do with my life? I have literally no idea. I just knew something would eventually come up, and literally something went up. All right. And it was me.
Phrasing.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
And something also went down that was also me.
Also what? Phrasing?
right after you summited.
Yeah, I meant on Elbrus, which is a lot of fun. That's actually a good one. That gets people going. If you ever have a chance to visit a Russian hospital that used to be a prison, hard pass on that one. Just letting you know, that's a scary moment in your life.
No thanks.
But sometimes you have to wash that fear aside and go skydiving the next day because you're absolutely ludicrously insane.
Wash it away with vodka.
Yeah.
We definitely washed it away with a lot of vodka.
Hey, do you want to play games for a good cause? Join Extra Life, a community of 50,000 gamers all over the world who play games to heal kids at Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Find out more at extra-life.org.
Do you like role-playing? How about podcasts? How about a podcast about role-playing? Check out our friends at Tomorrow's End, a podcast that follows a role-playing group as they navigate through a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Find them now on iTunes and Google Play.
So I didn't know what I wanted to do until I was in my mid-30s, and now I look people in the eye and say I'm an alpine climber and watch them go, "Oh, what? What's that?" And they always ask the same question, well, how did you get into that? Because nobody really ever wakes up and says, I want to go climb a mountain today.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what you did. Your friend was just like, hey, let's go Kilimanjaro. Let's go climb Kilimanjaro.
Oh, I complained the entire way. Don't get me wrong. I was not this like stoic, I'm a tough guy. It was more like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Why are we doing this? Why are you making me do this? And the food is god awful, but if I ever have to see vegetable sauce again, I'm gonna puke my guts out.
So did you get into climbing? Let me rephrase that. Did you end up liking climbing for the sport of it, or did you view it more as how your connection with Love Is Louder? I mean, even before that, but like being able to like rise to the top of something, like, is that kind of why you stuck with it, or do you enjoy it? Like, do you enjoy the pain?
That's a really great question. No. No, I hate the pain. I hate training every day. I hate spending 2 hours in the gym every day, or every other day. I hate the pain that you go through when you're climbing, but I love the accomplishment. So when you get to a summit, the accomplishment of looking down on the clouds, on the top of the clouds, or looking at all the other mountains around you is incredible. Now, when you climb one of the 7 summits, which is the tallest mountain on every continent, when you look down at the land in front of you and all around you, you realize you are the tallest point in that entire continent. And that feeling alone is absolutely indescribable. We always do a summit assault or an alpine assault right around 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. That's the time you kind of want to make a summit, especially on a glacier, to avoid falling into a crevasse or coming down too late to where you're getting into some, the soft snow after the sun's been on it too long. But the side product of that is that you get to see the sunrise from the tallest point in the continent. And that's an absolutely incredible thing. When you're up that high and the sun is rising on one side of your body and you look to the other side and you look down at the horizon and you can see stars below you, there's no other feeling in the world like it. There's literally nothing. And so that's the thing that I love the most, is that feeling of accomplishment. And to a degree, there's a narcissistic tendency in every single alpine climber in the world. I've never met one that didn't have that. And if they tell you they don't, they're absolute liars. We love being the first at something. We love conquering some part of the world. I mean, nobody climbs Everest who doesn't want to conquer the world. That's just a part of it. So I think most of us sign on to the organizations because we want that motivation, but also because maybe it makes us feel a little bit better about ourselves. Mixed with some insanity, I suppose. You cannot climb Mount Everest by yourself. You can't do it. You can't do Elbrus. You can't do Aconcagua. You can't do Kilimanjaro by yourself. It's impossible. So you have these other motivations. These people have paid a lot of money for you to do this for kids, and whatever, or Special Olympics, or whatever function foundation that you support. That's kind of what gives us that added fuel that we need to support them and to shout that message of hope from the top of the world.
Last question I got for you here. How can people like us, like the basement dwellers, because to be frank, you're like the very opposite of what it means to be a basement dweller, I mean? So how can...
So I'm kind of like this cross between both like the nerd society and the world of athleticism. I'm kind of like a hoopla of both of them, really. I'm like the coolest, most in shape, giant super nerd,
So how can people like us get involved is what I was going to get at. How do we get involved with something like that? Sure,
that's a great question. So right now we're developing a website specifically for the Everest climb of 2020, and that's going to be up and running in the middle of January. And it's going to be an area where you can donate to it. I'm going to bring a flag up with people's signatures on it. If you want to donate a certain amount to it, then we'll put your signature on or your name on it, and then we'll leave the flag at the summit of Everest. And it's going to have Love is Louder on there, and it's so that's going to be up in the middle of January, and people will be able to go on there and make a donation and leave a little note message. That will when that's up, hopefully you guys will kind of throw a little plug in there. Hey, by the way, we had this guy on the show. Go ahead and go to the website.
Definitely.
It is not up yet, though.
Okay.
So right now, they can follow my Instagram. They're welcome to do that. I'm always welcoming followers. My sponsors really like it when I have followers. So they're welcome to follow my Instagram. It is goon_climber. So that's G. That's so for anybody who plays EVE Online, I am in Goon Swarm. You're free to leave all the hate messages you want. Goon_climber, and you can see you can follow the adventures that I take, and then there will also be updates on there as well.
Awesome.
Ha! Joke's on you. I'm already following you on Instagram.
Are you really?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
You're welcome.
All right.
And also following.
Nick or Ron, do you guys have any questions for Ben before we wrap things up?
When are we hanging out?
Yeah, really.
I'm in Muskegon right now for until about January 7th. So I'm completely available. Right now I'm in North Muskegon enjoying a delicious glass of bourbon.
I'm currently in North Carolina.
So that doesn't do me much good, but I live in Washington, D.C., so
hey.
Depending on how close you are there. There's nowhere to climb around here, plus it's too cold up here in the frozen tundra of Michigan.
I mean, we can go to Rosie Mound in Grand Haven and pretend.
You can walk the hills.
Yeah. Yeah, we could do that.
There's a lot of stairs.
Climb a dune. So there is a climbing place in Grand Rapids that I'm planning on bringing my son to. He started climbing at 3, and he's 7 now, so he outclimbs me. But yeah, when I'm down in DC, if anybody wants to come down there and hit a rock wall or go outdoors and actually learn how to get into the sport, one of the things I love doing is teaching people about rock climbing. And I have 4 or 5 pieces of gear of everything. So teaching people about rock climbing and getting into this kind of a sport, or even backpacking or hiking, getting outdoors, is really kind of one of my passions. I love introducing people into a sport they never knew that they could do or would absolutely fall in love with. It doesn't matter what your physical shape is. I mean, unless you're, 500 pounds and you're 5'4".
Right.
Right.
Whoa.
Yeah,
We're talking about
Oh. Well, so I mean, if you're so my best friend is 280 and he's about 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", and he's actually climbed a couple of mountains with me as well. We went and did Mount Hood this last August, which if you ever get a chance to do Hood in August, definitely don't. That's how you get hit by an avalanche.
Oh man.
Yeah. That's how you walk over, a 3,000-foot crevasse and fall into it.
Wait, did that happen to you?
No, it didn't happen.
Okay.
Actually, we saw the crevasse as we were approaching towards the summit, and we got some great pictures of it. But it was so big. The problem is that it went right across our pathway. And although I'm well trained in crevasse rescue, and everybody I bring on a mountain, I give them training in crevasse rescue and in how to do alpine climbs, how to alpine belay, how to do ascents and descents with technical gear. I'll teach anybody to do that stuff. And we saw that, and both of us said, you know what, we can continue on, or we can go down and go drink. So
the drinking.
We went and got beer.
Yeah.
So the worst is we started at about 12:30. Was it 12:30? Yeah, about 12:30 in the morning. So we get there, we get the vehicle ready. We sleep in the vehicle. We got all of our gear ready. We're at the base of Mount Hood, looking up at this thing, going, "Oh man, this is a bad idea." And a couple hours later, we step foot off in the middle of the night. And right around 10 o'clock in the morning, we're still going. We're at the top we're right around Crater Rock, which is this huge rock from lava that froze in place 10 bazillion years ago. And you can actually feel the ground as it's like squishy in certain areas because there's still lava plumes there, which is terrifying enough. But as we're going up, we realize that the ski lifts, which are right next to us, start going, and skiers are now going up on these things and then skiing down towards us as on the glacier that we're climbing on. And I remember specifically looking at Drew and saying, why didn't we just take the damn ski lift 40 minutes ago? But then we wouldn't have truly alpine climbed the mountain. But yeah, so as the day heats up from the sun on it, you can see the crevasses actually opening. And if you don't know what a crevasse is, it's generally an opening in the ice. It could be an opening in rock. Yeah, crevice. We call them crevasses. It's a word after the French, although nobody likes the French. If you're French out there, I'm sorry. At least you're not Dutch.
I don't like your French.
So, anyways, I can say that I climbed with the Dutch climbing team on Elbrus. Great guys. Sort of. Anyways. So great times. I love anybody who wants to meet up and have a drink. And absolutely, I love storytelling. I promise I will entertain the hell out of you.
Yeah, definitely, dude.
It's true.
Well, hey, man, thanks a lot for coming on our show. I mean, you contacted us, and your story is pretty incredible, and it's inspirational, and it's something that I will probably never do myself. just
well, not, you can live vicariously through me on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll be happy just to know you, but but yeah. So yeah. To be fair,
I always said I would never climb too. So
yeah, who knows?
You never know.
Who knows? So right about here is when we had some technical difficulties. The guys weren't able to hear me and everything kind of froze. So this is where Future West gets to wrap up the episode by himself. A big thanks to Ben Ambrose for taking the time to come on the show and tell us about his real-life adventures climbing mountains and standing up against bullying with the Love is Louder organization. Thank you to all who listened. Please make sure to spread the word about us to your friends and gaming groups. Also, make sure to leave us a review on Facebook or iTunes especially. Anything you say can help us get noticed a bit better, and we would greatly appreciate that. Lastly, make sure to tune in to our D&D live play live stream on the 29th of December, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via Twitch. Follow us at twitch.tv/tbdpod as we play through the first portion of the 5th edition D&D starter set adventure, The Lost Mine of Phandelver. Well, that's about it. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good night.